Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Borderless. I have a really good friend of mine here today. His name is Orhan and he's from Bosnia. Welcome to the show, Orhan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. So how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you guys play in the Premier League today?
Yes, we won this morning, barely. I support Liverpool, yeah. And I know Man U didn't go too well, which I'm happy about. But actually, next Wednesday you're playing against Man City, so I'm actually first time ever supporting Manchester United. Yeah.
So I think we're playing City on Wednesday and we're playing Chelsea on Sunday.
I don't care about Chelsea. I want you to beat City.
I mean, for me right now, I just want to win. You know.
No.
And I don't know if we can win against City, and I don't know if we can win against Chelsea.
Come on,
and Chelsea is. Hey, I did for the past 7 games.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Anyway, we'll see how it goes. So I think you're like the first OU person I met when I actually came to OU. You picked me up at the airport in 2015.
Yeah, I remember when Tony was telling me that we have a person who is late. And he was asking if someone can volunteer to pick it up, and I said, yeah, I'll go. And then it was you, and all of a sudden you came to work together.
Exactly. You know, it's crazy how everything worked out. You know, you picked me up, and then I think three weeks to a month after that, we started working in the same office.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we worked together for 2 or 3 years. Is it?
Yeah.
You know, and it's crazy how here at OU you've been, you know, one of the people who've impacted me the most. You know, you're someone I admire so much, and you're very talented. You do so well in school, and it's crazy how you balance your life. You know, traveling, school, going to parties, and you know, and you still are able to always be on top of your class and all. And so, well, yeah, you're from Bosnia, so tell me a bit about Bosnia. You know, the history, the city.
For those who don't know, it's a country in Southeast Europe on the Mediterranean coast. Very beautiful country. We have like 3 million people, unfortunately decreasing every year because people are going to work to Germany and Norway and countries with better economy. We're super diverse. We have 3 religions. 3 major religions, the only country in Europe that has that. Majority Muslims, like 60%, maybe 55. And then around 30-ish of Orthodox, and then the remaining Christian Catholics.
So,
and
are you Muslim?
Yes. Currently, the situation is great. We all love each other, but every 20 or 30 years or so, we like to, you know, fight each other. But I think diversity is beautiful, so that's why I like my country. You know?
It is. I mean, it's good. You know, in the past, it was so difficult to understand.
Correct.
You know, for people to actually sit down.
Mm-hmm.
But as time goes by, I feel like people are actually noticing that, you know, whatever this is, it's senseless.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what works is if we come together and, you know, try to like work in harmony and try to make things smooth.
Yeah, the way I like to look at it is when you have a diverse team, you're gonna have different ideas, and then you're not gonna make the same mistake.
Exactly.
If you have the same people, same mentality, same background, you're probably gonna make the same. Yeah.
Exactly, absolutely. So you are UWC student. You went to UWC Bosnia. You know, I was life like at UWC for you. You went to the UWC in your country.
Correct.
Was that like your first choice? Did you wanted to leave?
Yeah, I was very lucky. I didn't want to leave at that point because I was 16 and at the time I was very close to my high school friends. But I really wanted to go to UWC, and I was lucky enough that there's 15, 16 of them in the world. I'm getting more every year. I feel.
I think it's 17.
17 now, yeah. And that UWC was 15 minutes away from my home. And I believe now when I look back at it, it had good sides and bad sides.
Yeah.
The good side is that I got to keep my old friends, go home when I wanted to. I was lucky to be in the dorms, to get the experience. But also, bad side could be that I feel you don't get the full experience, because when you go somewhere to another country, you get entirely different culture. You don't know anyone. You're lucky if you know 2 or 3 people.
Absolutely.
You struggle at the beginning, everyone does, but then once you get accommodated, you get to learn. Just like we talk about diversity, you just get to learn and know so many people, get to hear so many stories, enrich yourself.
Absolutely. So even though you say Bosnia is a diverse city, it's a diverse place, UWC it's different. It's people from literally all over the world.
Correct.
Was that your first time interacting with people from different parts of the world, and how was that like for you?
Well, not different parts of world, because I had relatives who are both from the US and Norway and Germany, so it wouldn't be correct to say it first time for people around the world, but definitely people who are my age, who are diverse, who grew up in different culture, different environment. Yes, my country is very diverse, but I would say that UWC is helping the community and the country, because sometimes when you have issues, people maybe tend to blame, the diversity. Oh yeah, you're different religion, we cannot get along. But when you have a school with people from Japan, Colombia, Canada, and they all come together, they all get well together, people from Israel and Palestine, and they all get together, they all become friends, talk about all kind of political issues, and they just further emphasize on my community, oh yeah, if people from Australia and Canada can get together and then talk to each other, get solutions. You live 10 minutes away from me, why we can't, get along, find a solution.
Absolutely. So UWC was kind of like a model people saw, and they're like, hey, we should model this, we should follow this behavior.
Correct.
And, that's amazing. That's amazing. So how did you said you stayed 10-15 minutes away from home?
Yes.
Did you? I mean, I'd go home every day, honestly.
I didn't. I know some people who are from my city, they went home more often. And I know it may be easier at the beginning because you're still staying in your comfort zone. I try to not go home as much, just to get to know new people. There are 2 dorms in the city. One is closer to my home, and I purposely picked the one that's further away. It's still close, but it's 10 minutes away walking from the other ones, for 10 minutes further away from my home. I didn't want to be in the same neighborhood with same people. I just wanted to have a new experience. So I would go home maybe over the weekend, every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But what I also like to do is to invite friends from UWC to my home. So for example, a couple of months after we started going, we had Eid, like the biggest festival in Islam. And I had a friend from Afghanistan, Israel, and the United States come to my home, get along with my family, eat traditional food and things like that. And also we have a tradition to give away money to young ones for that specific festival. Oh, yeah? And they got more money than I did. Because people were,
you should invite me to the festival.
Yeah. So that's what I like to do. When I would go home, I really like to invite someone with me so they can also experience the culture, because I know if I would to go somewhere I didn't know anyone or anything, I would like to go and see how those people live. So that's why I
absolutely. So I know your sister went to UWC too.
Yes.
So how did you know about UWC, and did she go there because you told her to go, or did she want to go as well?
She's very competitive, and that's why I'm really happy about her. Whatever I do, she's like, I want to do that, but I want to do better because I want to beat you. So she wanted to follow the same path, because I was really excited about the WC. I really liked the idea. I really think the model is very great.
Absolutely.
So I was telling my parents, my friends, her how great it is. I'm sure obviously she really wanted to go to attend, and I would say when she applied, she didn't want to go to Mostar because she wanted to have some new experience. Just as I said, I really like going somewhere where it's convenient, where my parents are close, but also it's really good to go somewhere else. And she went as far as she could. She went to Hong Kong, and she spent there 2 years, and she really enjoyed it.
She liked it?
Yeah, she enjoyed it.
That's amazing. No. And now she's here too.
Now she's here too, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So how did you end up in Oklahoma?
So I knew what I wanted to study for for a while from my high school because I really like engineering, I really like maths, I really like science. So it wasn't really a hard choice to make what I want to study. Now the question is where I want to study. And then when we finished WC, where we have a list of schools that sponsor us. So I went there to see which are the best engineering schools and which schools offer the best package for us, right? And then I applied to several, and I know OU admitted me maybe 2 months before they admitted anyone else. Because usually when you apply a little bit earlier, they would tell you the decision right away as long as you're a good candidate, right?
Did you early decision or just?
No, just like
regular?
that. And they just admitted me maybe after 20 days. And then I kept applying to places. I had interviews with Princeton and places like that, but none of them really offered a package like OU did. Because money is also plays a very good role.
Like you could have gotten into any Ivy League school, like.
Probably, yeah. But for those schools, usually they ask you to pay a certain amount, right? And I talked to people from OU, I talked to advisors, and I felt at that point, the biggest decision is because I'm leaving somewhere where it's unknown, I don't know anyone. I felt OU is a place where it's already very well established. I felt people who are here are kind of a family,
Absolutely.
Just helping each other out. And then people who were working, like Craig at that point, he was the only one working. He was constantly emailing me, telling if I need anything else and if I need more time to decide and things like that. I felt they care about students. So that's one of the biggest reasons that I came here, because I figured if I'm going to stay somewhere for 4 years,
you need to feel
pretty important to feel comfortable. Yeah.
I think it was the same for me too, honestly. The package was one, and two, they kept on, like they sent me an handwritten note for my personal essay. Like, I really liked your personal, because my personal essay was about my mom, and she was like, oh, I was so moved, and like my mom, and basically women empowerment. She was like, I was so moved and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, whoa, like this is serious, like it's not something generic, it's so personal. And I felt so good just seeing that note and just reading that note, and they kept on sending emails and all, and I was like, because my list was just down to 2 schools, OU or Lake Forest College. Yes. And Lake Forest, it's a business school kind of, and they're in Chicago, and they have a lot of headquarters in Chicago. So I was like looking for, I was thinking, okay, in the next 4 years, I'd want an internship, I'd want jobs, so Chicago would be a good place. But they kind of like never followed up or anything, and OU was just there like, hey, I need you, like, And so for me, I just made a decision on the package.
Yeah, when you look back at what we were talking about earlier, when you were late, imagine how many schools would take care of you, be patient with you, and then send someone to pick you up, to show you around. Not many.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I feel like those are the things that make OU special, And I mean, look, we've won the Davis Cup for how long? 6, 7 years, 5? I don't even know. 5 years, like. So, and every year we keep on having tons of Davis students coming here, just because how much we come, and then we just advertise the school out, so like, hey, you should come, And it's honestly, it's been an amazing experience for me. You decided to do your master's here too, so that's just an indicator on how good, how at home you actually felt, which is amazing. So for your undergrad, what did you do? Like, what did you study for your undergrad?
I did mechanical engineering degree. I really enjoyed engineering, as I said, and I was trying to figure out which one would be the most fitting. I started off with petroleum engineering because it attracted me for a little bit, because OU is one of the best schools in the world for petroleum engineering. So I applied, I got into school, and after a year or so, I started working on projects. I know taking classes is great, doing well in classes is great, but also I believe it's very, very important to take some outside experiences like internships,
absolutely,
like projects.
Yeah.
And that's one project actually changed my mind completely, because I got an opportunity to work with electric cars. Okay. And I found it very, very enjoyable. And then I went back to my apartment and I was like, oh, I really enjoy working in electric cars, but I'm studying petroleum engineering. Maybe I should consider. And then I switched to mechanical engineering.
So when was this?
It was my first year, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And also why OU is also such a great school, no problem switching. there's one condition that you have to have certain GPA, like certain grade point average level, and I had that, and they had no issues, just switching my major. And since engineering, it was very easy to change.
Because your credits.
Yeah.
I think you graduated with a special distinction.
Yes.
What was that like? I mean, what GPA do you have to have? Well, you don't have to say it, but I mean, that's if you want to. But like, how did you feel like? How did you feel like? When with special distinction.
To graduate with special distinctions.
What does that mean to you? Like, just personally.
To graduate with special distinctions, the GPA requirement is 3.7. There's the distinctions, which is 3.5 and above, and then 3.7 and above is special distinctions. And the feeling was special because all your hard work at the end, after 4 years, comes to a close when you're writing down your final chapters, writing down your final exams. You're all eager and happy to finish. The special parts, the recognition just makes you feel that your time invested in your academic parts was worthwhile. And then what they do is, when you graduate with those kind of honors, they make you go first in the line when you get your diplomas and receive diplomas. And just having my graduating class of around 150 and maybe 15 of us were able to get that. It just felt very nice, and it feels good when, that's also one of the reasons I really like OU. It feels good when your hard work is appreciated. Someone tells you, oh yeah, you're doing great, keep on moving. And they'll just stimulate you to work even harder.
Are you a first generation student?
A college student?
Yeah.
No, my parents both went to college, and they're both lawyers.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
They finished law, both of them, and I just decided I'm not doing that at all. Like complete opposite.
What is your sister studying?
She's doing business. Yeah, she's in business school.
Oh, nice. So she's in Price.
She's currently doing 2 majors and a minor. That's when I said she's the competitive. I really meant it. And she has a 4.0, and she's probably going to keep it this year too. She's doing international business and accounting, 2 majors and a minor in MIS.
Nice. Those are actually good subject areas to do. Like MIS, you could easily get a job with MIS, and accounting is good. I actually started off with international business, and then I went from international business to accounting and finance, from accounting and finance to accounting, and I just stayed with accounting. So those are actually good, and the business. I like the business school. My advisors. I know people complain a lot about advisors here at OU, but honestly, I've been lucky enough to have really good advisors whenever I go in for advising, and they've been able to guide me every single semester. So I've never had that issue. Like, it's something I can relate to. I don't know if you have that same issue in the.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe we're both lucky, but throughout my 4 years, everything went pretty smooth.
Same.
Really good advisors, people who are very willing to work with you if you have any requests, ideas, what you want to do, what you want to change. They were really happy to discuss opportunities. So if someone complains, I don't know.
I can relate.
I can relate. Yeah. I know some people start complaining, and it gets a little bit. You don't know what to respond because you can't really much relate.
Exactly.
You don't want them to tell them, oh, maybe it's you, not the advisor. But just like you, I had no issues with advisors.
That's good. I mean, it's honestly just a blessing to go through the 4 years, and because I wouldn't want to be in the position where I'm like, my advisor is bad, and because these people are like actually there to help you, and if they can't help me, like, I'll have to figure things out, and it can be really stressful. So have you like always been doing well in school, or was it something along the way that you just decided at some point that, hey, I need to get my stuff together, or have you always been like on top of things?
Well, most of since first grade, I was usually in the top of the class. big shout out to my parents for that. Because if there wasn't for their, I don't want to say pressure, but definitely encouragement, and sometimes, just reminding me that, school is important. Because if they weren't taking care of me, making sure that I do well in school, that I finish my homework on time, I might have drifted off in a completely different direction. But they were always there. Whenever I would go back, in the first couple of years of my school, just when I started off, whenever I'd come back to go back home, they would ask if there's any homework problems, or how was the school, and if there's homework, they would try to help me out. So they're just trying to work, set up work ethics. So after maybe 5th grade, I just kept doing that throughout my education. So I never really had issues with being behind in classes, because I got used to being just making sure stuff are done ahead of time, and not being late, because I figured, I know a lot of people like to procrastinate, do stuff at the end.
Later, yeah.
I figured maybe it's just better to do it before, and then when usually people start cramping this together, at that time you take time to enjoy. So just reverse, reverse mentality. If assignment is due Friday, just finish it on Tuesday, and then you have 2 days, 3 days not to worry about it at all.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's good. I mean, foundations are so important, and your parents helped you out in kindergarten, first, second, third grade.
Definitely.
And then as you grew older, you're like, this is what I know, this is what I've always done.
Definitely.
And it's so easy for you to just follow that path. That's amazing.
So big shout out to them. I'm not sure if I would be able to be here if there wasn't for their support when I was 5, 6, 7. But they did a pretty good job, I think.
Well, you have to do that for your kids too,
I will do my best.
I mean, I know you love traveling. How many countries have you been to? How many cities have you been to? And what has been your favorite?
A lot. Yeah. Since I came to the US, every time we had a break, I wanted to go out and visit somewhere. During my time here, I usually have a part-time job, and I just save money, and I don't spend money when I go out partying, because drinks and things are expensive. So I try to save that money instead of spending $30-40 when you go out. You save that money, and then eventually piles up, and then after that I would just travel. And then the places I went to were California. I went to Chicago, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco. I went to Mexico, to Cancun, Houston, Seattle, Colorado. So usually when
that's just in the US.
That's just the US, yeah.
That's crazy.
In Europe, I feel I visited every Western country in Western Europe, west of Poland. Europe is very diverse, so even in one country, every city is worthwhile visiting, but things are close. And as we talked earlier, I really like when you get to know different cultures, when you get to know different experiences, you get to know yourself, and you get to know what you like to doing. That's why I really like traveling. I think money spent on traveling is not money spent; it's invested in you.
Absolutely. And I feel like a lot of people should actually go out and see, because I've met a lot of people here in the US, and they've never even left Oklahoma for the most part.
Yeah.
Most of them don't even have passports, And it all goes back to, I'm so busy, I don't have money for this, and so what would you say, what advice would you have for people like that?
There's always enough time, and if you organize it well, and you can find money to spend traveling if you travel smart. I don't want to go into depth into if someone is in deep poverty, or someone is health doesn't physically allow you to travel. But if you're in a good health and okay in terms of finance, as I said, I worked part-time job, and I saved that money just to travel. And I went to San Francisco, right? I spent there a couple of days, and people think, California, very expensive. $400, plane tickets, sleepovers. And when you travel, when you meet people, when you meet new people, and when you go hang out with people, if someone is from California, if you're friends, of course they're gonna invite you to come over for. Yeah. So sometimes when you money invested in traveling is not it's not wasted. You get to know met new people, new friends, and then next time you want to go.
Good memories and I know you went to Cancun with Marco.
Yes.
Yeah. How was that?
very beautiful.
Yeah.
A very different experience too, because Mexico is just entirely new world as compared to here. We were in Cancun, and we were the place where usually tourists would go, and that place is very well suited for tourism. But we try to go outside a little bit to see how people live, just a little bit outside of the reservation, like where people come to travel and to visit. Very different, and you can see people grinding, just trying to make the best out of the resources they have.
Absolutely.
And Mexico, and especially Cancun, is beautiful because you have Maya's pyramids there, pretty close. You have some really historical monuments, and I really enjoy history. I like history because I feel the more we get to learn about the past, we tend to not repeat the same mistakes.
And the more we understand the present too.
Yeah, you're gonna understand decisions, like what is very likely to happen if specific patterns starts occurring.
Absolutely.
So that's why I really like those historical monuments. They remind us of our past and remind us to be humble.
What has been the favorite place you've been to so far?
That's very hard. That's something I get to ask myself all the time. To decide, where's the best place I went? What is something
top five. I'll make it easy for you.
I would say the biggest experience I had was going to Paris. I was there twice, and the second time I went, it was on a football match.
Yeah.
When Bosnia was playing against France.
Nice.
It was a pretty important match. So when I went, it was 1-1. And they got a penalty, which should not be a penalty, so we should have won because we were leading.
I'll give you guys the
reason. That's the same story every time, But the reason I would pick that is because you get to see all the shiny parts of Paris, right? You get to see the Eiffel Tower. You get to see Notre Dame, which is not in best shape in the last couple of days, which is very unfortunate. But you get to also Paris is really beautiful, and also it helps you remind yourself. When you go outside of Paris, there's a specific circle where it's highway just surrounding the city, inner city. Everything's beautiful, shiny inside. But as soon as you go a little bit outside, there's the people from North Africa, where people from Paris don't want to go. Sometimes even police don't want to go because it's just hard to organize and deal with crime rates there, things like that. And it's also, I went there a little bit just to see how people live, and it's not nice.
Yeah.
You see them struggling, but you also see them just living with what they have. So maybe half an hour away you go to Ritz Palace, one of the most expensive hotels in the world. People coming in with Lamborghinis, just like that.
That's crazy.
And then you go half an hour away, a little bit outside, and you see people not having enough money to have a car at all. So just keeps you humble, just conscious. That's why I really like that trip. Just I get to see both sides.
Both sides of things, absolutely. A lot of people think overseas is everything. You can't be poor here. If you're overseas, then you're definitely making money.
Yeah.
And now you're in the US. I don't know if people in Bosnia have that same mentality, even though it's in Europe. But from like an African perspective, once you're overseas, a lot of people tend to think, oh, you're in the US, like you must be making more. Like I'm going to school.
Exactly.
Like, where's the money? I wish.
Exactly.
Is that the same?
Same, because the economy is not the greatest. People live well, but not well as if Germany, But that's, as I said at the beginning, a lot of people are just living not because they hate the country, just because they had got a better job in Austria or something. So whenever you come from outside to visit or like for holidays, they would think you have a lot of money, because even if you're a student, even if you're in the United States, even if you're on a full scholarship, they still think you must be very rich, because you're there. We are rich, but not in finance. We're rich with experience. But financially, we wish.
Someday,
Yeah, someday.
So how do you like deal with that? Like, do you find that annoying that people just tend to do they ask you for money? Like,
luckily, no. No one asks for money. It's just they expect sometimes out of you. So when you go out with friends I usually hang out with friends. that I know for very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go with them, obviously there's no worries because they know how I'm doing, what I'm doing,
So they understand.
They understand, yeah. But the new people, get to meet, they're like, oh yeah, he's from the US, he definitely has, a lot of money because he's in the US no matter what you do, right?
Absolutely.
I never had any issues with that, but you can definitely see that people expect, they have a standard for you, without even knowing you, right? They immediately label
as long
you.
As
yeah.
It's the same. It's
correct.
The same
Yeah. So I guess the same from Africa too.
Yeah.
If you come from outside, whatever you do, you're outside. Immediately, you're treated better because not better, but differently. Definitely.
It's the same. I went home this summer and. Just like you, I go out with friends I've known for the longest time.
Yeah.
So these are like friends from high school back home, and when we went out, they bought drinks for me. They're like, nah, don't spend. Like I got you. I got you. And I'm like, yo, like these are actually friends. Because really, I'm just a student. But like you said, people expect you to just have this standard.
Correct.
Like they don't know how much you're making. They don't know if you're making anything in the first place. But they just have the standard set for you that you're overseas, and it's just funny how it's actually a global thing. Me coming from Sierra Leone, I might think, it's just people from Sierra Leone. It's just Africa, but like it's the same in Bosnia, and I've spoken to people in South America, and it's the same thing too. And it's crazy. It's crazy.
But also, I don't want to put the blame on, label those people who. I think it's also a fact that if you live outside, you do get to earn more, right? Because I know friends from back home. Sometimes, we work here. Our salary would be like $10 an hour, right? You would be sitting in the office, sometimes not doing anything, but still have a minimum wage, right? In our countries, probably in Sierra Leone, Bosnia too, minimum wages are very low. So yes, we do, but I understand them, right?
No, same. I do. I mean, but then if you go to like what you can do with $10 here, and what you can do with $10 back home,
a lot.
It's different. Like people here have to work 2-3 jobs,
correct,
just to like survive, not even leave,
correct.
Like just survive.
Correct.
I mean, and it's fortunate we're not in that position.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's honestly just a blessing coming here and actually being able to study and make some money which I can use for myself.
Yes.
Or save. But yeah, totally. Like we can't blame them. Like it's overseas, and the way the US just markets itself.
Yeah.
Out there, people think this is it.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah. People really do think this is it.
But I think we're both of us and anyone else who gets opportunity like this is very fortunate to get, and that's why if we do get it, especially people from countries like ours that are good but not doing super well.
Yeah.
It's important to use the opportunity to maximize.
Absolutely, do the best you can.
Yeah.
So let's say I was like struggling with balancing my school, going out, traveling, like it's hard for me to balance all those things, and you do it so well. What advice would you give to me?
The way I do it and the way I found it very effective for most people who seem to be able to manage all those things is motivation. Because I believe if you see a goal in something that you're doing, that you will be able to sit down and do your tasks, right? So if you're studying some hard major, starting with classes, if you don't enjoy and if you don't see a final goal in what you're doing, you're going to struggle. But if you set a goal and say, okay, I'm going to school. This is why I'm going to school, right? If you're going out with friends, that means you have a free time. If you have a free time, it means you manage to manage your time well, right? And I find motivation being the biggest reason people tend to manage their time well, because why are you doing so, right? If you're doing the homework, why are you doing the homework, because you're learning something, right? That's why you don't put it away for procrastinating. Just do it early because it's good for you, right? I know some classes are more useful than the others. I know some classes are just very boring for some people, but there's still final goal, get a degree, right? And as long as you keep that final goal in mind, do what you need to do and do it on time, you will have time to go out for parties, for traveling, for anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree. I mean, 4 years here, it can be tough,
No.
to actually just think of that one goal and kind of like keep it in mind at all times. Are there days where you like struggle with things, and how do you overcome those?
I just remind myself of why I'm doing so, right? If I'm struggling with homework, if I'm questioning, is this what I really want?
Is this worth it?
Is this worth it? Is there going to be everyone has that, right? So it's not like someone, Elon Musk, I bet he also questions himself. Do I really need all these companies? Can I just take my millions and spend them and buy an island, have fun? You just need to keep your goal in mind. It can be different, right? For some people it's making your family proud. For some people it's I want to be rich. Also perfectly legitimate, right? As long as you don't spend.
Absolutely, yeah.
If that's your final goal, yeah, perfect. Just like if you're struggling with something, just sit down on your own or with close friends who know you very well, not random people. Don't go online. Just sit on your own or with very close friends. Just think about why is it, what are you doing, what you want to do, and just follow that path.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I mean, I should be writing these things down. I mean, like you're like literally one of the smartest people I know. Is that something? Do you think it comes naturally to you for you just to be able to understand materials in class and be able to like produce those in class? Like, do you think it comes naturally to you, like compared to other people who have to study up all night, stay up all night, and study and study and study?
Well, definitely some people are more talented in other things than others, right? I'm good in maths, I'm good in science, which means people start things, material from classes come naturally, right? So when I hear something in classes, I just understand it maybe faster than I explain to my peers. But then if I was studying something like arts, I would struggle a lot because I'm really bad, making any, straight line or anything, So it just comes to down like what you're good in doing, right? I'm lucky enough that I'm working and studying something that's good on the market, right? I don't want to say that I'm smarter. I'm just understanding what I'm good at. And I'm doing that, and if I'm not good in something, I try to find people who are good in that, right? If I would need someone who's good in woodworking, I don't know, building a house, I would be probably very terrible in that. Even going to classes, going to school for 10 years, I wouldn't be able to make a small statue, like in any kind of architectural work, yeah. So I was just lucky enough to figure out what I'm good at doing, and that's also something I would just recommend to people. Just understand what you're good at it, and try to see if that's profitable for future. And if not, just try to work on your weaknesses too. But understand what your weaknesses are, and understand there's always going to be people who are better at you. Anything, right?
No,
the world is pretty big.
Yeah, for sure. I had a conversation with a friend yesterday, and I was telling him, like, do you know a single guy who's like the strongest, the fastest, the richest? Like, he has all those qualities. Just one guy with all those qualities, and he's like, no. And I'm like, yeah, that's just it. Like, because people tend to focus on just what they're good at, like just one thing for the most part. There are people who are good at 2 or 3 things, of course, but usually like just focus on what you're good at. And just like you said, try to make sure it's profitable.
Yeah.
Like just get paid for it somehow.
Yeah. I know, for example, medicine is great. People, the doctors, big money. I would never be a good doctor, right? And if I was studying, medicine, people were telling you, yeah, he's one of the lamest students. He's struggling in class. It takes him, a while to learn. It's profitable, but not, I'm not good at it, right?
I see.
So that's how, just try to understand what you're good at and try to profit out of it, but also try to, learn what you're not good at it, and just try to work on those things.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Life is experience, just
it is.
Yeah, learning experience. Yeah.
It is. So do you plan on getting like your PhD at some point?
Well, currently I'm halfway through my master's degree, and there's a couple of options that I'm considering. I really enjoy teaching. I really like my degree, and that's definitely something why I'm considering PhD for. I would enjoy, being in a classroom. I'm a teaching assistant now, and I really enjoy helping people out. People who are working on things that I worked on, and trying to see how people learn. Then I see how someone else learns completely different way that I learned, and it shows me entirely new world. So that's why I feel when you're teaching someone, you also are getting taught.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the reasons I'm considering PhD. But also another big passion of mine is entrepreneurship. So that's why I'm considering going to industry. Trying to understand how it works. And hopefully starting something on my own one day.
Do you know what kind of like business you want to do?
Yes. And
electric cars.
You're close. And I'm currently working on some projects like that. That are
nice.
That are still not super official, but just every day that's something I like to do in my free time, just to see is there a gap that we can improve, that we can fill with something, and that's something I like to do. So hopefully those two career paths I'm currently considering, and both are very good. But I'm trying to open possibilities in both of them. So as the time goes, I can just understand what is exactly which path I really want to take.
So you're doing your master's in mechanical?
Yes.
And you're going to do that for your PhD?
Yes. My mechanical for master's is a little bit interdisciplinary. So I'm working with also electricals, engineering, and computer science. Because I feel most sciences now are interdisciplinary, right? You just need to know a little bit of everything. You cannot it's hard to focus on one thing because science is just progressing very fast, and if you want to make something valuable and a valuable contribution to science, you need to be able to understand, interdisciplinary activities. So my passion is electric cars. So, and I'm currently doing something associated with it. Hopefully, if I were to go for a PhD, I would look to work something like that. I had the opportunity to work for an internship with a company who is working on batteries for electric cars, and
nice.
I understood how they work, how they operate, how the industry operates. It's a pretty good experience.
Just about like electric cars. Do you, in like 10 years from now, do you see people making that switch? I mean, people are making that switch, but still a lot of cars with petrol and gasoline is still going on. Like in 10 years, how do you see that industry?
Well, people will need to switch regardless they want to or not. Because I know, especially Europe, because cities are very close together, packed, and just cars pollute the environment, right? So cities like Munich, for example, they already started banning diesel engine. It's funny because Germany, they invented diesel engines, now they're banning them. But cities already started banning, electric, buses, diesel engine buses, things like that, and they converted to electric just because it's not because we're gonna run on petrol. It's just unhealthy, right? Just having the emission out of diesel engine is not good for anyone. And if something we have in common, if poor people and rich people have something in common, we all breathe the same air. So rich people don't want diesel engines because it's going to harm them too, right? So that's why we're going to switch eventually.
So I really don't know much about electric cars. I just know the electric cars and you charge them. In Norway I saw a couple of in terms of price range. Are they the same?
Well, definitely getting cheaper, because most people know about Tesla for sure. That's their
Tesla.
They're focusing. 5-6 years ago, their cars were very expensive, and they weren't producing that many of them at all because it's just expensive, right? And not many people are willing to buy into it yet. But at that point, there were people who were visionaries and had money, so they're like, I'm going to invest in your company, right? And Tesla was in huge loans for a long, long time. And this is the first year actually they're starting to making profit. And now they reduced the car price from $100,000 to $30,000.
Oh wow!
Yeah, just because of mass production and all. You probably know better than I do about business how those things work. But that's how it usually goes. And cars were expensive 100 years ago when the diesel engines came out. They were much more expensive than a horse, for sure. It's just the production, the size, the quantity, and with petroleum, with the petroleum you're limited, right? With electric cars, not really. You have limited resources, right? Especially when we switch to solars and things like that. it's going to get much cheaper.
So how long, like let's say I fully charge an electric car, how long is it going to last me?
Depends how well the car is. Usually the newer ones can go up to 300 miles, like 400 kilometers without any issues. And the range is increasing rapidly, and that's something I find very funny, because if you buy an electric car now, probably in a year it's going to be twice as good for the same price.
Because there's more research done into it, more improvements.
Yes.
I guess in the next 10 years it's going to be
fully electric cars, and at least hybrid cars that they can run on both, just because they're going to be cheaper and better for environment. And
no, absolutely.
As I said, rich people want to breathe quality air because they cannot have special air for themselves, so they're going to force on everyone to use electric cars just to clean up the environment for everyone.
So what's like you? I mean, you're one of the few people I know who wants to get up to their PhDs. A lot of students are like, once I get my master's, that's it. What's like your ultimate goal? I know you said teaching, entrepreneurship, but like with all this education, like what's like your ultimate? Like what change do you want to make?
I want to make a contribution in the society, and hopefully positive in a technological sense. I really like when I'm working on stuff that people are going to use, right? That are going to utilize, and it's gonna make their lives easier. So PhD and industry in my field is kind of similar to that. If I do a PhD, I'm gonna develop technologies, sciences. They're gonna push, limits of what we currently have. If you go to industry, you're working on development of electric cars, you work in development of robots, and things like that. So my final goal is to be able to create something, either a company or a product that people are going to use, be happy with using, and just gonna make their lives easier, right? So that's my ultimate goal. That's something I really like doing. That's something I enjoy doing. And when I was doing any kind of research, any kind of product development, if someone is happy with what we came up, I was happy, right?
Absolutely.
So that's something that drives me forward, to try to work on entrepreneurship parts and PhD parts. Absolutely. So that's why PhD entrepreneurship, even though they kind of seem very different, they all work together. It's finding a gap and trying to fill it, either with creating your company and then working specifically for that, or doing PhD and working on research papers that are going to help developing something else.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you here now, I feel like I know that you'll do something great. Honestly, I know you'll do something, and all the best with that. We've known each other for 3 years.
4 years now.
And you, like I said, you're one of the people who inspire me a lot here, and I don't tell you that often, but I want you to know that.
Thank you.
But like just rounding up, what advice do you have for people who, on basically how education has impacted your life, on the values of education, and also on like chasing your goal, like what advice would you have for people?
I know it might be a cliche, but it's very true. Just follow your dreams, right? Make your dreams and make your goals tangible, right? That's not something super crazy. That's actually realistic, but also something that's gonna make you work hard, make you feel good while doing so. And that's gonna help you a lot with everything. With school, it's gonna make your school easier, because when you do homeworks, you know why you're doing them, why you're learning. If you're doing any kind of projects, you know why they're doing them, because you're learning, you're working towards your final goal. So my advice to anyone would be set a goal and follow it. Understand how you're going to reach it, and then work towards it. And then it just comes naturally. Once you reach a certain point, you want to reach even higher. So that's why rich people, they always want to be richer, right? You just want more, right? You just want more.
There's always a next step.
Correct. There's always something more, right? In this world, there's always something greater that you can achieve. So when you set a goal, just work towards it, and if you reach it, great. But once you reach it, you're gonna be, want something else. If your goal is, I just want to go to college. If you follow that dream, if you do well in high school, do well in college, eventually you're like, I reached college. Now I want to do PhD, or now I want to make my own company, right? So the way I did it, I was setting goals, what I want to do to reach my ultimate goal that we just discussed, something that I really want to do. And then eventually, like even in my case or anyone else's case, once you start a company, is doing well, you probably will be thinking, oh yeah, I want to do something else, I want to start another one. Just like Elon Musk, for example. I would like to take him as an example. Clearly, he started PayPal, he sold it, he didn't say, oh yeah, and I have millions, I'm not doing it. No, he started 3, 4 more, right? He always wants more, he always keeps grinding because he knows his goal, right? Just follow the example of people who are successful, find someone who you think is doing well and just see what they're doing well, right? Just try to mimic, copy, and learn from them, and then implement it on your own.
Absolutely. Hey man, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, likewise.